Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. April 17th, 2018.
The Kuhner Report is powered by Kelly Financial Services, cleaning up your financial bull. Get the peace of mind that you deserve at Kelly Financial Services.
Right there. Hey, it's Vinnie Penn. My name is Vinnie Penn, and I'm filling in for Jeff here on the Kuhner Report. WRKO 680, man, unbelievable. We're at 617-266-6868. You can feel free to tweet me at Vinnie Penn. More followers, the better. I want to get to a couple of calls right now. I was waxing nostalgic about 8th grade, about 20 minutes into Ronald Reagan's 2 terms as president, and that moment when one of the nuns at my grade school shouted out to a parking lot full of kids, the hostages are home. Let's go to Carlos, line 1, who I think is about to say something really interesting. Carlos, thanks for calling.
Hey, how you doing, Vin? I'm Carlos Hernandez for Congress. I'm actually running against Seth Moulton. Listen, I was there. We were there. We basically were when the hostages were there, released and everything else, because we were headed to Liberty, and we were turned around because we've been sitting out there for quite some time in Iran. And when Reagan came on the air and said that they better be on the plane, that was something that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because when Reagan took over, the military changed drastically. Because in regards to, we had someone that basically, he basically put his foot down on whatever he was going to do. The hostages basically were released. I think some of them flew to our ship and so forth, and basically others were, wherever. But in regards to it, this is something we were going to go in if they didn't release the hostages when Reagan took over. And, this is something that it was very exciting to actually get them there, but shortly after that, one of the things that happened, after the hostages were over and done with and they were released, they actually, we were sent to Lebanon. My goodness, So we go from one problem to another one, Yeah.
Of course. I say that often doing news radio. You're typically handed a news story to sink your teeth into. You don't even feel as if there was any closure on the previous one. But Carlos, if I could just ask you to spell it out a little bit more. At the outset there, you said you were getting on a plane, then you were off, then you were back on. What exactly was that again?
Well, we were in a carrier. I was in a carrier, and basically we were actually sitting right out there. We could see, even way before Reagan got there.
Yeah.
We were sitting there, basically, and we could actually see them. And we always had to do a little, general quarters just to ensure, basically, that everybody's prepared for whatever is going to happen and so forth. So we were kind of sitting on the ship, and we had to actually, we were going to take a little break, a couple of days. We were headed to Singapore. Reagan came on the air saying that basically he said that if the hostages are not released when he takes office, and this was I think he did it on TV, on the radio, and everything else.
Yeah,
that we
absolutely.
We were going to go in and take them.
Yeah,
and basically, and this is and the minute that Reagan took over, they were on the plane.
Yeah,
I mean, they were on the plane it's the only way. And that's what you
now, obviously, Carlos, it resonates with you. It sticks with you forever. You're there. And I'm 13 going on 14 in that hero-worshipping age of, I was a very nervous kid, I guess. I do recall the dinner table many years earlier, talk of Vietnam, watching the treatment of the soldiers who came home from that. Who wanted to revisit anything potentially like that? Carter didn't make a nation. He certainly didn't make my father feel at ease. And so that this man could be elected in, say these words, and 20 minutes into his first day on the job, they're home and a nun is yelling out. I mean, we cheered in that year, and a peace of mind came with that. I wish that a peace of mind came with this most recent election. For many it did, but it brought such an ugly divide, and that frustrates me.
Yeah, well, the one thing is what's going on right now with our election here. people better realize what they're doing, the damage they're doing to our nation with this witch hunt in regards to Trump. Trump's doing all the right things right now, and I can't understand how in the world, what the hell do they want? Do they want us to keep going where we keep appeasing these people? We're supposed to be the world power.
Yeah.
And in regards to it, how in the world are we just going to sit there and keep, basically kissing people's behind just to appease these people? Not only that, we got to protect our nation. Okay,
we do. We have to. If you don't mind my cutting in, Carlos, and thanks very much for the call, and good luck on the campaign trail there. But we have to put ourselves first again. Our magnanimous nature has cost us many precious things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and with needing to do that. Trump earlier this week got pretty close. I mean, talking Putin, he said, maybe we'll be friends, maybe not. Now, is that as eloquent as some things Reagan said? My favorite came years later, and it was, today we did what we had to do. They counted on America to be passive. They counted wrong. And with that brought a confidence. And we need that confidence again, because in a lot of ways, it's the mid-'80s revisited again. Now, speaking of Russia, Michael Dougherty, director at the National Cyber Security Society. Mike, I've been saying these last couple of weeks, as a 50-year-old, this Russia-America squaring off plagued the 80s. It plagued my senior year of high school, my freshman year of college. It felt like something that was imminent. I mean, we had Stallone taking on Dolph Lundgren, basically embodying everyone's fear. Now it's back. I've actually been expressing this sort of, is this just going to be a recurring, Cold War's not actually, just live in fear of this attack. Red Dawn's about to happen. Look out your window. But no, a cyber attack might be their Pearl Harbor.
This is always what they do in half-truths, right? I mean, this is how they fear, uncertainty, and doubt when it sounds plausible. After they draw these, pictures in our brain that are built on anxiety, that's no shock when we finally have a president writes a line in the sand, and then he actually doesn't let you cross it. So
yeah,
there's a whole lot of people that are upset that Trump has been successful, that this has gone well. He didn't get us in another long-term war, so far, right? So what? No matter what, it's going to annoy some people that are just going to live to be annoyed. At the same time, they do that because, well, it's plausible because they're moving to cyber war, but that's been going on forever. For the last 10 years, espionage is normal. And the way the cyber war happens, most of it is sort of siphoning out all our good stuff in the back door. That's what cyber war is.
Yeah. Now, is it a sort of misguided innocence to say, hey, cyber war, there's no bloodshed? Is that an upside I'm supposed to be looking towards? Because when war turns cyber, there's no lives lost, right? There's lives destroyed, and it may or maybe inevitably lead to those lives lost. No?
Well, lives could be lost if they target the back doors of, say, healthcare or things like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, lives can be lost, and lives can be lost on a much greater scale. But this is the issue of for every day that passes, the likelihood of that is a lot less. The likelihood of that is less as well, is because we always have we throw a vicious second punch, and we're the target of everyone because we are an innovative machine, and that's where they're weak. So they steal it. So most of the war is in our commerce, but they like to draw these pictures of the entire grid going down or something like that, and that's the issue with that is absolutely possible. With every day that passes, it's less possible. We have, by and large, unless you're James Comey is the exception to the rule, we have protectors that keep their mouths shut to all this chatter. They're not going to be so people, in the CIA and the NSA and really the cyber war rooms aren't gonna put themselves into this. They're not used to having to come out and speak to us.
Yeah.
They're not gonna talk
But now, as a tech analyst, cybersecurity is your calling. And again, we're on with Michael Dougherty. It seems like every time somebody does come up with the firewall, for every Snowden, for every, I've got the perfect defense, there's somebody within minutes, I can get right around that. The hackers are far more skilled than the security experts.
You're right for right now. And that's because this is an early stage still of a big revolution. And every revolution is just sloppy and messy. And hindsight is always 20/20. And the 20/20 here is when we fell in love with this thing and got addicted to it and decided to just dump all our data into it.
Yeah.
No one was going, I guess we should secure this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
It's all about money.
Yeah.
It's about money. And now there's big money involved in whoever does secure it. And look at Facebook, lose their brand value.
Yeah.
So we're becoming more educated. And then we'll learn more about those things, and they will get better. But right now, it's kind of true. Yeah,
it's funny, Mike, what you just said there, too, with the Facebook thing. And just yesterday, I hopped on Facebook, and it had this little thing. Hey, you want a little bit more security? Click here. In light of reason. I didn't even click on that. I'm like, nah, I'm not going near anything.
Well, listen, they are the master exploiters, right? So they're putting there and writing. I'm telling you, that guy is so shrewd, it's terrifying. And he really is terrifying because he's not a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he's covering his legal butt.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the word that scares me the most is accept. Yeah, when it says, when I'm prompted to accept, I chafe at the notion. But how about this? So we have up to 400 Australian companies caught up in cyber attacks right now, and they're blaming Moscow. What do you have to say to that?
Oh, come on. I mean, look, it's going on all the time, and 400 is nothing when they're making millions of attempts per hour. So, again, it's the half-truth, right? That's just the half-truth in the sense that, yes, true, but the circumstances they're letting you draw in your brain. And we get real dramatic because what do we see? We see a Will Smith movie, we see Star Trek and Star Wars, and we want all this drama. And the media makes money on selling eyeballs, so they're more than happy to comply. And by the way, remember all the drama to the buildup of the Zuckerberg testimony,
sure.
And then dud.
Yeah, that's true. But I did hear something about the U.S. and British officials kind of teaming, we teamed up this past weekend, but joining forces in issuing a joint alert about cyber attacks with regard to Russia.
Now that's interesting because here I am at RSA in San Francisco, the biggest tech thing in the world.
If I recall correctly, it said something about targeting Cisco routers.
All right, so I guess it sounds like it must be Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. They're always, this goes on all the time, and the issue is got to be what our offense is, and we're not going to talk about our offense. It goes both ways because that's how we mess up what they're doing. So let's not forget that they've got a lot more weaknesses than we do. In their cyber world, and that's why when the WannaCry virus thing hit, that was absolutely worse in secondary economies because they had a lot more older legacy stuff. So, I don't want to. It's a tough sort of plank to walk because you don't want people to get relaxed. You want them to understand what's going on, but I want people, to get not to. To sit there and think the skies are going to blow open or something. It's
sure. Yeah,
there's tons of things that go on with it.
Yeah, basically what you're circling back around to not be the fear-mongering, keeping an eye on the ratcheting up, anyway, of the fear-mongering. Always a great conversation with Michael Dougherty, again, director of the National Cybersecurity Society. Hey, it's Vinnie Penn filling in for Jeff on the Kuhner Report. Day number 2 for me, and I appreciate you being patient. It's the great RKO. We're at 617-266-6868. You could tweet at me at Vinnie Penn. I want to grab a couple of calls right now, in fact. Let's start with my man Tommy, who's been hanging in there. Who I'm sure the last 10, 15 minutes we've been talking about Russia and the way they may attack us now versus how they would have in the 80s. But I'm sure he remembers that chilling chapter. Ronald Reagan getting sworn in and the hostages coming home as well as I do.
Absolutely, Vinny. How are you, my main man?
All right. How about you, bub?
Good. First of all, you're doing a fabulous job, Vinny. I hope this sticks and you come, beyond more. Here's what I was thinking, Vinny. We had to hit a rock bottom, almost like an alcoholic has to hit a rock bottom before they can get sober. And it started with Watergate. Then it went to, pulling out of Vietnam. Then it was the hostage crisis, Iran. And it wasn't until, the hostages came home, Reagan got in there, till everything turned around. It was almost like it had to get so bad. And here's another thing, Vinny. When the hostages came home, don't forget, a month later, and I was in that parking lot, by the way, with you when those nuns yelled out.
I believe so, yeah. I believe I'm putting it together right now, yeah.
But remember, the Olympic gold medal, the hockey team, won the next day.
Man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the next month or so. And here's the thing about that. You talked about the gas crisis. This is how it affected me. My father, my old man, who you know, was driving a gigantic Thunderbird with the suicide doors and the power, everything. The next thing we knew, he came home. He got rid of that car. He came home with a Datsun B210. I'm like, Vinny, I was like, Dad, where's our car? I mean, that thing, we had picnics in the back seat. We had to crawl into this Datsun B210. Here's the other thing, Vinny. You said
really quickly, let me jump in there. And when you talk about chapters like that, and you're always cautious, are we turning into the old people who are like, I remember walking to school. But it is interesting to remember these chapters, especially as you're keeping an eye on your country, as you're keeping an eye on our enemies as well as our allies, and we're raising kids. As far as the gas crisis, I'll never forget coming home one day. My mom stone cold ran out of gas. She's like, we're out of gas. The car was moving, and it was one of my sisters with me, and she said, I got an idea. And she threw the car into neutral, and we just rolled home. We caught the hill. You know the hill I'm talking about, I think,
yes,
too.
I know the hill.
And we rolled home. That sticks with, a teenager, and becomes this moment of, okay,
here's the thing about that.
This is a place I don't want to revisit.
That wasn't a one-ism, though, Vinny. That happened to all of us multiple times. That gas crisis was no joke. Kids don't understand that today. They go get gas. It's like nothing. It's not like nothing. But speaking of that neighborhood with that hill, Vinny, we grew up in the greatest neighborhood in the world. And I'll tell you why. You know why, Vinny? Because there was an element there. It was the most beautiful neighborhood that had an element, if you know what I mean. I loosely use the word kind of ghetto-ish because I know some of our people we grew up with would cringe their teeth at that. But there was an element there. And that's why guys like you and me became men that we are. You know what I mean? The other thing is you mentioned breaking balls. I don't know if you can even say that on the radio, but that was that was almost terms of endearment. We grew up in Italian homes, Vinny, right?
Sure.
If you didn't break each other's balls, you didn't love each other. You know
well, I mean? and there's a slew of Boston neighborhoods that same way. We both know that much. Interestingly, I'll tell you the truth, and I talk about it on my daily morning show often. And Tom, I appreciate the call. Thanks for the support. Thanks for checking in while I'm sitting in here on the Kuhner Report. Again, my name is Vinnie Penn. You can check me out online. It's vinniepenn.net. But one thing Tommy just reminds me of there, especially now, where I live now, which is another great neighborhood. There's great neighborhoods across the country. But here's the big difference. We lived in a house that the previous owners were the parents of the people who now own the house. And their previous owners, were they handed down, not handed down, but the neighborhoods were that way. I remember running through from backyard to backyard, and using bathrooms in homes of people I wasn't even friends with their kids. Mrs. McGowan, can I use the bathroom? Sure. Come on in. The old adage, it takes a village. That was a truism then. I remember being reprimanded by my elders in my neighborhood if I did something. We were a mischievous lot. This was going on everywhere, obviously, at the time. I'll tell your mother, and you think, you don't even know my mother, but I know that you would. I know that you would take the time to walk the block over, knock on the door. I had Band-Aids put on knees, Band-Aids put on by people who, today, I think they'd be afraid to do so. They'd be afraid to squirt that ointment on the split knee, put the Band-Aid on. I don't want the lawsuit coming my way. It just doesn't exist today. Next door's an Airbnb. The owner disappeared to Florida. He's not a snowbird anymore. He became full-time. It's an Airbnb. And to the other side of you, you're just waving. Ours was a neighborhood. There are neighborhoods across the country, and this is what we've lost, that spirit of, I will watch out for yours. I'll reprimand yours. It doesn't even happen in families anymore. One of my sisters said to me just this past summer, she was complaining to me about some way one of my children had spoken to her. Do what Aunt Georgia would do. Do what Aunt Joan would do. You're her aunt. You are empowered. You are subcontracted by me to be take her to task verbally. Tell her, what are you coming and telling me for? We all have jobs as uncles, as aunts, as fathers, as mothers, as neighbors. But we stopped that. We got afraid. Fear governs us. It precludes us from doing the things that made this nation great at one time. Become a litigious lot, and now we're worried that our lawyer's office is going to get raided. Again, this is Vinnie Penn coming at you on the great RKO, filling in for Jeff and Kuhner Report. Let's get some news, and we'll be back. Hey, it's Vinnie Penn here, filling in for Jeff on the Kuhner Report. And what a day. Day number 2, anyway, to be making my Boston debut, if you will. Just saw the story circulating of Stormy's sketch of the guy she says who was telling her, threatening her, you better keep quiet. You want to keep quiet. The stripper, who's the porn star, who's going on tour, and we'll hit in East Windsor, Connecticut club. There's a New York date. And why not? I mean, she should make money at this point in time, right? Evidently, the sketch she has rendered in a courtroom has sparked a social media frenzy that looks a hell of a lot like, apologies in advance, Tom Brady. What a day to be out. I mean, people are out of control. The news is actually, the AP reads, no one is actually accusing the famed quarterback of taking time out to take any part in any of this, but he is unwittingly, pulled into yet another Trump controversy. What was the first one? Was that when he wore the hat? I don't know what it was. See, this is why, and this is something that should be talked about, but there are only so many days, there are only so many opportunities, there's only so many minutes on air, but it sparked a social media controversy. It's social media seizes it. This is what needs to be acknowledged and what everyone needs to accept. So now social media runs with it, and there are a few people with clever turns of phrase. Vitriol sparks a response, and it's either a weapon in your arsenal for good or a weapon in your arsenal for evil, and that's what's motivating many of us today. There are days it is a weapon in Trump's arsenal, in a good way. There are days it's a misguided tweet. You know, you can't help but cringe and wish he hadn't done it. The Starbucks story that we hunkered down on for so much earlier today. Without Twitter, how would we have known? Hashtag boycott Starbucks. Even though it was one employee at one Starbucks in Philadelphia. It wasn't even hashtag boycott Philadelphia Starbucks. I mean, the whole brand had to take a hit. To that end, I want to get back to the phones. 617-266-6868. We have Lou, who's been on hold for a while and wants to talk Starbucks. I'm looking forward to revisiting this one, especially because I'm watching this CEO go above and beyond, and a bit much, I think. Lou, thanks for hanging.
So the benefit of sitting on hold is you get to hear everybody, and in this case today, everybody's waxing nostalgic. And, the message with Stormy is that she's lucky that she lives in a country that still has free market principles. Otherwise, she'd be dancing for a dictator, and it won't be with her consent. Yeah. This whole business of Starbucks actually can be framed going back to Trucker Kevin's caller, your buddy Tommy, Carlos before him. I think it was Carlos.
Wow, you keep it track.
Who was on the who was on the ship? Either he was a sailor or a Marine, one or the other. Yeah. We had a lot of bad presidents. Carter was very bad and only was replaced as the second worst president by Obama.
I saw that coming. A mile away.
Of course, you got to go to that well because it's true. Because it was a slow pace. We had a couple of wishy-washy presidents and Richard Nixon who gave us the EPA. We had Carter gave us the Department of Education. How did all those things work out for us? They've been used as an arm against liberty. And prior to, now I'm going to bring us back forward to Starbucks.
Yeah, please.
Prior to this trend of trying to fix corporate wrongs. 60 Minutes had a guy on Sunday night, the head of Salesforce, and he was trying to make amends for disparity in salaries between men and women. Yeah. And the unconscious, trend of paying men more than women. And now you've got this unconscious bias at Starbucks. We used to call that a shakedown when Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton used to do it. It's the same thing, but now it's been glossed over and it's been compartmentalized to be something that's accepted.
Especially really quickly, Lou, especially as it pertains to one employee at one Starbucks. I'm assuming this CEO had an exchange there. So why would it be an unconscious bias? Why wouldn't it just be a bias? This employee has a bias. Why a sweeping unconscious one affecting the majority of Starbucks employees across the country? It's bizarre to me.
Easter Sunday, we took my mom out to dinner in the shoreline in Connecticut. And there was a table next to us, 8-10 people, big table. And you could tell from the accents that they were from New York. They finished about halfway through our meal. And they gave the waiter a hard time. Next thing you know, the manager came over and they were giving her a hard time. And she's trying to clear the table for other people that were standing by waiting, and they just wanted to occupy the table. Right. And it got pretty heated, and I almost got up. I almost got up and intercede on the management behalf. And they were Caucasian, but it's the same principle. People are trying to make something out of it that it isn't.
Yeah,
and it's not.
No, I agree. That's a great story, too, especially as it pertains to Starbucks. I'll tell you, it runs a thread through this entire show. It's been odd in that way. Everyone's waiting to see what Fox News will do with regard to Hannity's name being on this list. Will they stand by him? Will they crumble? Starbucks. They had an employee to stand by or not stand by. It doesn't mean you have to abandon your brand or now you all have to take a course. There doesn't seem to be this Everything is a fear of appearing bias, unconscious bias, whatever these terms are that we come up with. There's white privilege. I don't even know what that is. There's privilege, there isn't. We assign gender, color. All I'm looking for is to see one CEO nail it and say, look, I've known so-and-so for X amount of years. This wasn't a shining moment. Does not define who they are. We're moving forward. Or if it's a real bad situation, then the person gets let go. But that doesn't mean, what does that mean? We clear the whole roster? No. I don't understand. The Starbucks CEO is setting a dangerous precedent here by responding to this one-off with now everyone's going to have to go through a certain training. It's very scary, really.
Yeah, it's everybody has to go through training now. It's training for this, training for that.
Yeah.
When you people come to the job with their own history, and either they're going to perform or not. But to lay out some bias on an entire population is just ludicrous. It's no different than Paul Ryan announcing he's going to have sexual harassment classes for 435 members of the Congress. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, especially because there's a book out many years back called "All I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten" by a guy by the name of Robert Fulghum. It's actually a great read. I mean, this is going back. I might be at 1990 right here, but it's basically it's a truism. Sexual harassment class. If your mother or father did a good job, you know right from wrong. You know how to conduct yourself around the opposites. Anyway, when it comes to Starbucks, these are things, common decency can't be gleaned in a conference room between 1 and 2. Never mind the fact, Lou, these days that we Skype it in. You're in front of a screen. The guy's not even in the room with you anymore. He's on Skype.
I did not see the video, and the video is not a complete record of the incident. But even if the management wanted those people out and they weren't purchasing product and the cops showed up, unless they refused to leave or they gave the cops a hard time, the cops should have just marched them out.
Yeah. Lou, are you ready?
Don't know why an arrest was necessary. But
Lou, are you ready?
Ready for what?
Breaking news. Starbucks has just announced that they will close all company-owned stores on the afternoon of May 29 for Racial Bias Education Day.
Oh, that's
how much this CEO has conceded. That's how, I don't know what, this guy, something must have happened in his life. He's fueled by some
he was
guilt.
He's a liberal to begin with.
That's insane. That's a dangerous precedent. That's scary stuff. Lou, I appreciate you hanging in there and calling in. But wow, Starbucks will close 8,000 of the company's U.S.-based locations to train 175,000 employees and address what they're now called implicit bias. They want to promote inclusion and help prevent discrimination. Once the company has completed this training at its company-owned locations, it will make this all available to its licensed partners. Companies working with the Anti-Defamation League, the NAACP, Legal Defense and Education Fund, and the Equal Justice Initiative. Hold on. I could have really screwed up here. I mean, this is Boston radio. I mean, this is the big time. Did I screw? This could be The Onion. This can't be real, can it? But I want to find out. I want to find out that I inadvertently typed in cracked.com. But no, this is the truth. In reaction to one employee squaring off with a couple of, I can't say customers, nothing had been, due to that one situation in Philadelphia, in Torrance, California, something was filmed back in January. There's a video resurfaced on Facebook yesterday. A similar situation. The CEO of Starbucks has decided, I'm going to close all company-owned stores on May 29 for Racial Bias Education Day. Basically, for their employees to be told what if their mothers and fathers did a good job and their teachers and everything, they already know. Maybe do a better job just interviewing. Especially in this day and age, interviews now, whether it's right or wrong, hop on somebody's Facebook page and get a handle on them. They have social media at our fingertips. My name is Vinnie Penn. I'm filling in for Jeff here on the Kuhner Report. Really, you could go to Twitter at Vinnie Penn, VINNIEPENN. You can find me on Facebook and elsewhere. You really can find out a lot about me. And yet, the Starbucks CEO's response to this is, I want to change the interview. It's not, I want to change the interview process. It's, let's close down every store and have Racial Bias Education Day. An unbelievable and unexpected ending to today's show. Well, towards the end, anyway. I'm going to take some time to absorb this. If you'd like to call in, got a little bit of time left to do so. It's 617-266-6868. Again, my name is Vinnie Penn, filling in for Jeff on the Kuhner Report. And this is the great RKO. It is amazing, is it not? What a time to be alive. My name is Vinnie Penn, filling in for Jeff on the Kuhner Report. A well-deserved break for the Kuhner man. This is the great RKO, WRKO 680. I appreciate you all coming along for the ride these past 2 days. But really, when you think about it, there's Comey's book. Today's the day it's out. It's interesting to think had she won. I don't say it in a way as I can't say Hillary Clinton, but because of the really actually kind of the clever I'm with her. Although we were talking bias, unconscious bias, there's gender bias right there. You say her. Do we want the first female president or not? And you know, a lot of Democrats did not. Hence Bernie Sanders. But you think about a tell-all a year or so into Hillary Clinton's first term, or perhaps only term as president of the United States. I got a good feeling, I don't know, that the author of said book, something would happen to him. I feel as if there'd be breaking news of an accident with barbells landing. He was doing some, he was pumping some iron, and something happened to him. Yet, no, there's tell-offs aplenty. I'm born, raised Connecticut. I'm, I think, a week away from Michael Wolff, the author of Fire and Fury, inside the Trump White House. Probably the worst interviewee in the history of them. Almost he doesn't remember things about the book he wrote. He's asked questions on high-profile shows and with answers, I don't remember that part of your own book. He's coming to town. He's on tour. Comey's on tour. Everybody's talking about inside this White House now. That's still a newborn. Whatever happened to the good old days when the tell-alls came, when the TV show was canceled, not still on the air. When the actor, the musician, the politician passed away. Now or for Trump anyway, the urgency. It's the publisher saying, oh, sure, I'll still want it then for a third of what I'm willing to pay right now. Michael Wolff's on tour. Stormy Daniels on tour. Comey's got a huge book tour. And I don't even know who's going to show up for it because there are many in Hillary Clinton's camp who bailed on the guy. The fan base isn't necessarily enormous. In a recent interview, because today's the day the book came out, he admitted that his decision to criticize Clinton 2016 was not only a break with department protocol, but also that it would have been reasonable under the circumstances to have said nothing. Mea culpa, anyone? And really, the way he's looking to come off here, as if, my candor, my inability to not give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. My inability precluded me from getting it right damn me, Jim Comey. I can't help it. I got to give the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I got to give it now. I'm a man. It weighs so heavily on me. The exact quote is, in the ordinary case, we would most likely, in writing, prepare some sort of summary of what our investigation had determined, then send it over to the Justice Department. And they would, in the ordinary case, either say nothing, which is the most common case, or at most issue a letter to the target saying, or the subject saying it's over, or some minimal statement about it. You just heard outtakes from his interview with George Stephanopoulos, a different interview, where he just keeps talking about extraordinary, everything, whether it pertains to Hillary Clinton or Trump. These are new developments. It's not like this is an ordinary. And he's just a guy flummoxed by the uniqueness of every situation. What I find unique is that right now, less than a year from being unceremoniously let go from the FBI, he's written a tell-all. At a time when our allies aren't exactly lining up. At a time when Americans are arguing more than ever. The former head of the FBI has written a tell-all. Just at any time, really, it'd be wrong. He's on tour. The guy behind Fire and Fury inside the Trump White House, because that's what we do. Are you a Trump Republican? It's the Trump White House. It's so bizarre, the way we assign things like that. He's on tour. And if you've ever seen Michael Wolff interviewed, really, he doesn't keep his story straight. And Stormy Daniels, the porn star, who will probably, I'm pretty damn sure, is going to be on Dancing with the Stars. Maybe not the next season or the one after that. She's on tour. And I mean, it's a gentleman's club tour. Further proof of the decline of Western civilization. Where's Penelope Spheris when you need her? Because there's a trilogy laying in wait there. Hey, I really appreciate you affording me the opportunity to sit in Jeff Kuhner's chair here. And you were right. These were very big shoes to fill. I hope I did. And maybe you'll hear from me again. I'm Vinnie Penn, and this is the great RKO.
The Kuhner Report is powered by Kelly Financial Services. Cleaning up your financial bull. Get the peace of mind that you deserve at Kelly Financial Services. The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 100.7 WZLX HD2 Boston, an iHeart radio station.